This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. So let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. What do energy efficiency incentives mean for Ohio? Offering incentives for conserving seems to be the new plan in Ohio after an energy scandal rocked energy customers. I'm sure you all recall Larry Householder, First Energy. Now, to make it fair, Ohio power companies are offering energy efficient programs to cover the damage brought on by the energy scandal. Mike DeWine, if you want to be exact, offered a lottery for those getting the vaccine. Now Ohio is focusing on incentives for energy efficiency to get past one of the biggest scandals in the business of government involvement when it comes to keeping the energy business afloat. And that's why story number 1 made it in this week. Giving something to get something to give something again. That's why story number 1 made it in this week. Story number 2. Back to the drawing board as cases start to rise again. The local area, like many other districts across America, is seeing a slight uptick in virus cases. Rising cases could mean more problems because the more people keep messing with things, the people in motion who keep things in motion will keep altering things even more. So it's like saying if you put on a mask, turn it sideways, you find a cure, everybody else is eventually going to start trying to tilt that mask. In all actuality, it could have just been the fact that you're immune. So the more we mess with things, the more this could get a little crazier. So we don't want to give anybody any more bright ideas because rage and curiosity amongst local people is growing. You know, the most amazing part about this story is how the roller coaster ride of dealing with COVID-19 has really changed the way how we operate on a daily basis. So many operations, even us, how they run. So story number 2, that's why I made it this week. Story number 3. Youngstown gets a piece of the opioid settlement. A lot of cities have fallen victim to the opioid crisis. Families have been destroyed and addiction problems are through the roof. People can't seem to fight the habit. Now, the ripple effect of the opioid crisis could be felt from here to many parts of America, and settlement money can start to pour into many affected places. Now, the city got, I think, the settlement of $811,053. Now, this is as part of a $26 billion case against Johnson & Johnson. This was a part of the settlement, and a few other distributors of the drug, the opioid drug. So they're starting to dish out some cash. Now, the city share in the case could increase to about $1,158,647.67. Mayor Jamel Tito Brown says he wants to use the money to help and he wants to help law enforcement issue and he wants to educate the public about drug and opioid use, and hopefully they use some of that money to get people off the stuff if they're still having problems with it. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. 5 new police officers joined YPD, the Youngstown Police Department. The city of Youngstown swore in 5 new officers this week, keeping the headlines about local policing alive. The Youngstown Police Department has been in the news quite a bit lately, keeping the focus on the future of policing in the local community as many area residents try to remain optimistic about the future. Now, the department needs more good people on the police force. Staffing is down 10% compared to 2 years ago. Mayor Jamel Tito Brown swore in Dan Spivey III, Juan Fulmore, Angela Strickland, Ivan Thomas, and Khadijah Whitfield. Welcome to the YPD force. Good. I hope you have a great and prosperous career and get along with your fellow citizens. Big headline. That's why story number 4 made it in this week. Story number 5. The revamp of Lordstown's auto future is off to a slow start. Now, in some very anticipated stories, the future of the auto industry in Lordstown has been in a lot of headlines. Partnerships, COVID-19 shutdowns, lawsuits, and now the focus seems to be on investments and if there is any potential for growth in the Lordstown market. Now, what's happening is Lordstown Motor Companies has been in the headlines quite a bit because they're battling with some financial concerns. Now, this is outside of GM and some of the other auto plants around there, the battery makers, LG Chem, and all that other good stuff that's coming in Lordstown. Now, this one story that's been making it in is probably one of the most anticipated stories in the news due to employment and the future of the auto industry here local. Now, these are companies that have global ties, and the people are looking for that growth, and that's why story number 5 made it to number 5 this week. Big headline. Story number 6. The Valley is seeing a decline in population. So what does that mean? Now, when you ask some people about how they view the Valley, you may get a lot of different opinions. The steep decline in population has been in and out of the news lately, leaving area residents wondering if people are running or just finding better opportunities elsewhere. According to one local Vindicator article, Mahoning County alone lost 10,209 people due to population decline. They're moving elsewhere. Now, this story involves redistricting and zoning changes that could possibly come and alter the course of the future here for local residents if people keep packing up and moving away. That's why story number 6 made it in, because where there are no people, there is no activity. Big headline. That's why I made it this week. Almost made it to the top 2. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'm doing it all for you every week, striding through stories, shuffling through pages, all for the greater good of the public. Story number 7. Youngstown's crime fest could turn the tide in the next mayoral election. Emergency crews have been very active, and elected officials have been scrambling to fight the crime wave. Local officials have had to come to the constant aid of victims being shot, and many to the point of death. One man shot in the head while sleeping, and another incident occurred involving a woman killing another woman with a hammer. I hope that's correct, but that's what I read in the story. Very sad. Now, this alone could really change how people vote in Youngstown's next election. In less than 2 weeks, there have been quite a few homicides, including the death of young children. Youngstown's Crime Fest will definitely stay in the headlines, and at the moment, there seems to be no answer when asked how this growing problem will be solved. Here's one solution. Stay away from drugs. I have never in my entire life seen anything good come out of it. Say no to drugs. That is a Mediator mandated message. Big headline. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. All my life, I've only wanted to do one thing, and that is write about something great and tell a story about something greater. Well, let's get to the top story this week. Youngstown may be at the point of no return, but either way, there's always hope. Don't you feel so great? Staying optimistic is hard when the devil keeps knocking at your door. The devil. Youngstown has seen it happen over and over again. The devil knocking at the door, and we've seen happy times, and we've seen the devil coming in and destroying everything. In the old days, that's what they call it, the devil. I don't know what they call it now, but back in the day, they called it the devil. The simple fact that the city has a crime problem won't leave the headlines, and it's causing the city a lot of problems. Tears falling from the eyes of city officials, people crying and sobbing, tragedy after tragedy. It's what they call the devil, the seeker to end all life on earth. Now, death has been in so many local headlines lately that area residents really want answers in which no one seems to have. The fact is that there are goddesses of life on this planet. Please, if you're out there, sing a song, cater to the public, do something special to speak life into this dying atmosphere, because people need it right now. Start singing some happy songs. I believe in you and me. I believe that we will be in love eternally. And as far as I can see, you'll always be the one. Sure you get the point. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. You're on the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Oh, boy. You know, I'm going to tell you this story. And it's a special story to me because it touched near to my heart. It was the first time I experienced love. And I was shocked. I was amazed at what it could do. And what I was noticing was that love was like a flower. It was showing me that there was something to live for in this life. And then I enlisted into the forces, the United States military. And when I seen the beast of war, I started to believe that the only cure for that beast was love. And that's when I found this microphone. And I decided to give a poem. The poem goes a little something like this. In life, there will be trials and tribulation. In life, there will be times when you get smacked in the face by your mama and your best girlfriend. But you've got to live up to your expectations. And you've got to find a way to love, baby. Ooh, ooh. Now, if you can't get it from the Sweat Hotel, you can get it from the Mediator. Ooh, ooh. Sizzling, baby. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. It may be time to reflect on what's been accomplished in the Middle East. A lot of love to give over there, folks. Middle Eastern headlines have stayed in the news so much that people can't help but bring up how long the U.S. has decided to engage in Middle Eastern affairs. Now, the news has been filled with chaos, but new activists are starting to make some small headlines with stories to separate the bad from the good. Now, the constant debate on what is really going on in the Middle East remains a hot topic. Now, there are so many sides to this ongoing story, with the ongoing stories in the Middle East period, that the news circulating about Afghanistan is just another example of how things can get out of hand when occupying someone else's territory, or when trying to occupy, or trying to make peace, or trying to fight terrorism. Story number 2. Home prices are in the headlines. But what does this mean? The housing market is in the headlines again, and it mainly has to do with rates along with fluctuating prices in the market. Now, with a lot of people wanting the full price for their house, some real estate investors are trying to find economical ways to make the housing system work for everyone, especially the poor. Now, and this is in some parts of the United States, census data is showing mass population declines in areas that once boomed, and analysts are trying to find out why. Why is this happening? Some real estate enthusiasts have also started giving tenants the option to rent to own cheap houses that have been revamped in neighborhoods. This is good news in some areas, but it's still experimental. Nobody knows how it's going to turn out. Now, analysts are also watching for housing bubbles, with inflation being in the top stories all across the board. So inflation is all over the place. Now, if the housing market keeps fluctuating, this could be a sleeping issue, because bubbles do bust, and that's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. The Biden administration is running out of cards on foreign and domestic policy. Political gurus are all over the Biden administration, and it hasn't even been a year yet. In all of the back and forth, Biden is holding steady on his decisions, especially the one to leave Afghanistan thus far. But with so many disasters circulating in the news, the Biden administration could be running out of cards on foreign and domestic policy. Here is a list of things that are growing and escalating. First, you have the border. Then you have COVID-19 policies. And now you have to take another look at a failed mission, or what could be a failed mission in the Middle East. Now, in this developing story, some people have already voted on the Biden agenda, but only time will tell how this story develops. Now, when all hell breaks loose, people still have to carry on, and we have to find a way. That's why story number 3 is so important. That's why I made it this week. Optimistic. Story number 4. Poor and middle class Americans are screaming for help. Some time back, the housing market was on the verge of collapsing. Then the government stepped in with Obama-era policies. Then it became harder and harder to own homes and borrow money without spotless credit. Almost perfect, a perfect credit score, probably around about a 630. 620, 650, somewhere around that. If you get lucky, 570. Top stories now include student loan debt and the fact that COVID-19 has been another gut punch for poor and middle class Americans who were already struggling to stay afloat. So COVID-19, bam, hit us all in the gut. People are screaming for help in this market, and it seems to be getting worse. But some people are making a way out of no way through it. Now, through it all, the poor and middle class seem very concerned about the future, and that at the moment seems the future at the moment that the poor and the middle class are looking at may seem uncertain, but there is hope. As long as there's mankind, as long as our blood lives on this planet, there will always be hope, because the promise is in the sky. Somewhere over the rainbow, up high sky. Well, those are our top 4 stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't go anywhere. You're in the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I will tell you this story before we get to those top 4. I was hanging out with my friend Queen Priscilla. She was a reverend back in the day, and we were out eating dinner, and she was telling me about her trials as a reverend, and I was trying to encourage her to stay in the game, And she was telling me how people have been fading away from the gospels of mediation. And she was telling me about how she used to get out there and heal people. And I'd say, Looser, 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 come out of her. She said she was a demon slayer. Demon slayer. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. When she came in town, Maris was crying and sobbing and thinking about that all hell was breaking loose. But it was something about Priscilla. She was like some type of goddess of life. When people would see her, they would feel alive. And when the stories were coming out about death, Priscilla would preach life into people. Heads would start spinning. They'd start speaking in another language. That's when I knew that there was something special about life. And that's when I became the holy mediator. Casting out demons, exorcism everywhere, evangelism, cities of gold, baby. In the middle of the night, singing the gospels of mediation. That's my story, folks. So I'm sticking to it. Let's get to it, baby. Story number 5. Americans could be losing faith in the future, but not Priscilla. The anniversary of 9/11 is just around the corner, but since then there's been a shift when it comes to American pride. Some people are choosing to turn away. Some people have American pride and some people don't. But with new and so many new attitudes emerging daily, the shining country that has united in its name. It's embedded in the United States of America, and it seems to be far from its mission statement right now. Where some people still remember, some people just don't want a part of it. This story highlights a pattern what has occurred over time. Some of the patterns with so many movements that have been taking place lately. Now, talk about a polarized America is still rampant in a lot of intellectual circles. Polarized people just having a lot of different opinions that don't seem to make a lot of sense. Now, this talk is sparking so many tribal wars that the polarization has proven to be real, and it's causing those on the losing end to have little faith in the future. Story number 6. Now vaccinated. Now the vaccinated are blaming the unvaccinated. This story has been all over the place. The COVID-19 saga continues. It is pointing, people are pointing the finger, and it is becoming a big thing these days, pointing the finger all over the place. Now the vaccinated are blaming the unvaccinated for another spike in COVID-19 cases. The COVID-19 stories have really been a thorn in everyone's side, trying to keep things in motion. And now with the continued discussions making headlines about the Delta variant, people are becoming even more concerned, pointing fingers, saying that they're pointing the blame on almost everybody, and even with people with the vaccine are catching the virus. So story number 6, I don't see leaving the news anytime soon, because COVID-19 is still causing a lot of problems, because there's just a lot of confusion out there. That's why I made it this week. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in for you. I do it all for you. I don't get much for this. I don't even get, I put it all back into the pockets of the public, and I get up here every week looking through stories just for you to keep you informed. I do not take any money for doing this, but I do it because I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm being useful to the community and to the greater good of everybody who takes a look at this program, keeping you informed. And now it's time to get to the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Story number 7, America's farmers are still in the headlines, with small headlines about America's farmers in circulation, there may be more attention around what farmers need and want in this still ongoing story. Now, at the moment, weather conditions and droughts are what got this story in, but there could be more to this story. Farmers have been in quite a few headlines this year, shining attention on the growing financial and hazardous conditions that farmers have had to battle through. Now, first it was trade deals with under Trump, and then it was COVID-19, and now in the news it seems to be the weather. So keep an eye on story number 7. It made it into the top 2 this week. Farming is very, very important. Without it, people can starve. So I made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made this week. Story number 8. Story number 8. Sorry about that. Just gotta let it out sometime. Some kids are missing from school enrollment, but why? Folks, education is important, but it's a threat to the future if you don't have it. And more children are missing out. Some educators are trying to close the gap from because some kids have been missing school enrollment. They're missing the rolls, and this is having a lot of education officials concerned. That means they're not showing up. Now, in many areas of the country, the education issue is so bad that teachers are exhausted and trying to stay motivated. Now, the other sleeping issue in this evolving story is the evolution of the curriculum and how complex some curriculums have become over the years. Now, with so much trouble still brewing, keeping kids in school and prepared to learn has become even harder with COVID-19 around. So if you are out there and you see a teacher, give them a hug and try not to pass COVID, but try to pass some love in their heart to keep going, be motivated, and stay in the game. Free Mr. Clark! Free Mr. Clark! I know you all remember Lean On Me. Let's all lean on each other. Fair East Side, where the side. Oh. I'm sure you get the picture. Well, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit, the media. I'm just a mediator, the man in the middle, doing what I do best, coming in looking through over 200 or more stories just for you. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. All of the proceeds, even money out of my own little pocket, the long little money I have, goes back into this community to keep people active and keeping people informed and doing the best I can to spread the arts and keeping the arts funded and all that other stuff that comes along with community involvement. Well, that's another week gone by. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank you for just being a part of this program. It is very, very challenging, but I do it because I love it and I enjoy it. Well, I'll be back next week looking through over 200 more stories just for you. Have a good week, everybody. Stay in the game. Don't give up. There's still a lot to be done on this planet. As long as we're here, the sun keeps rising. Have a good week, everybody. Peace. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll say it one more time, 2 times this show. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.